April is a rare and powerful time to make a real breakthrough. Not a single planet is retrograde, Uranus is changing signs, and a major stellium is activating a key area of your chart. I've broken down how these transits will affect all 12 zodiac signs, with exact dates and key turning points. You'll find your sign in the timestamps below. Subscribe to the channel, and let's break down what April has in store for you. Aries. April is a very important month for you because the main focus is on your first house, the house of beginnings, initiative, identity, self-expression, and the way you present yourself to the world. In April, your sign is hosting a major stellium of planets, and most importantly, all the planets are moving direct. There are no retrogrades. That makes this month especially favorable for moving forward, making decisions, and starting something new. And for you, this energy is even more powerful because your first house is basically saying, it's time to begin a brand new chapter of your life. On April 2nd, we have a full moon in your 7th house, the sector of relationships and partnerships. Around this time, anything connected to relationships may become clearer, come to the surface, reach a conclusion, or hit an important turning point. This could show up as the completion or renegotiation of a contract, an important deal, the signing of an agreement, or a major shift in a business partnership. But it can also play out in your personal life, a new connection, an important date, an engagement, a proposal, or even a wedding. And this full moon may also reveal how you truly relate to yourself. And that is a very important theme for you right now. On April 10th, Mars enters your first house, your sign, and will stay there from April 10th to May 19th. Since Mars is your ruling planet, it is especially strong in this position. This placement can activate a brand new 2-year cycle for you. Think back to what began 2 years ago. Something from that chapter may now be coming to an end, making room for a completely new phase. Mars will be conjunct Saturn and Neptune, which means action, dreams, and serious intention are all coming together in your life. And that means that from April 10th to May 19th, you may feel like you're back in the driver's seat of your life. More initiative, more courage, more determination, and a much stronger sense of forward momentum. On April 16th, Mercury enters your sign, and after that date, you may notice more news, more conversations, more phone calls, more paperwork, more communication, more ideas, and more learning. And then, on April 17th, we have a new moon in your sign, at 27 degrees of Aries. This is one of the most important events of the month for you. This new moon will be felt most strongly by those who have an Aries ascendant from 24 to 30 degrees, as well as Aries natives whose birthday falls on April 17th, or between April 14th and April 20th. For you, this new moon could shape the entire year ahead and bring the beginning of something completely new. A new job, a new place to live, a new partner, a new family chapter, a child, or a new role in life. For all other Aries placements, this new moon will stay active for about 2 weeks, from April 17 to May 1st, when the next full moon arrives. And this is a very good time to begin something new. A new project, a new look, a new style, a new business, a new hobby, or simply a new version of yourself. On April 21st, the Sun enters your 2nd house of money, and after that, financial matters may become more noticeable. Money may start coming in, work may increase, and there may be purchases or important material decisions. Overall, April looks like quite a money-focused month for you, because Venus is also in your money sector from April 1 to April 25. And Venus is a symbol of income, gifts, enjoyable purchases, and financial ease. Then, on April 25th, Venus enters your 3rd house, bringing in a much lighter and more enjoyable energy around communication, meeting new people, travel, and social interactions. This can bring pleasant conversations, new connections, short trips, meetings with relatives, easy communication, enjoyable texting, the purchase of a car, or simply more harmony in the way you connect with other people. But probably the most important date of April is April 27th, because Uranus changes signs. Uranus has been in your money sector for the past 7 to 8 years, and if during that time you experienced financial instability, unpredictable income, or constant uncertainty around work and money, then after April 27th, that chapter begins to close. Uranus is leaving your financial sector, and over time, your money situation may start to feel calmer and more stable. And most importantly, Uranus will not return there for another 84 years. Then, for the next 7 years, Uranus moves into your third house, the sector of communication, contacts, learning, travel, information, ideas, and everything connected to your voice, your hands, and the way you express yourself. This can open up a very exciting new chapter for you. More communication, more content creation, more filming, more writing, more studying, more travel, and more new connections. For some of you, this could even show up as a completely new social circle, people from different cultures, relocation, or immigration. But this is not just a story of 1 month. This is a 7-year cycle. There is already a video on the channel about Uranus and its influence, so make sure to watch it. The link is in the description. And now, here is the most important part. Your first house is currently filling up with a major stellium of planets, a huge concentration of energy. You have Mars, Mercury, the Sun, the Moon, Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron all there. This is very rare energy, and it may feel as if life itself is literally telling you, go, start, step forward, make your move. Now, let's briefly talk about who will feel certain planets most strongly. Saturn will be especially strong for those who have an Aries ascendant from 5 to 9 degrees, or a birthday between March 26 and March 30. This is about discipline, structure, maturity, and building something serious and long-term. Neptune will be felt more strongly by those who have an Aries ascendant at 2 to 3 degrees, or a birthday on March 23 or 24. This is about dreams, intuition, creativity, spirituality, inspiration, and inner revelation. Chiron in April will be especially strong for those who have an Aries ascendant at 25 degrees, or a birthday on April 15th. This is the theme of healing, through the body, nutrition, exercise, recovery, healthy routines, and sometimes through the desire to help and heal others as well. So, dear Aries, April is truly a powerful, intense, and life-changing month for you. This is not the month to sit back and wait. This is the month to move toward the new, because life itself is now pushing you toward change. And by the way, happy birthday, dear Aries! Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next astrology forecast. Taurus! April is a very important and transitional month for you, and the biggest event here is the fact that Uranus is leaving your sign. It has been with you since May 15, 2018, and now this 8-year cycle is coming to an end. On April 27th, Uranus leaves Taurus for good, meaning that for the next 84 years, it will not return there. And honestly, that's something to celebrate. Because on one hand, this period may have helped you discover yourself on a much deeper level, but on the other hand, it may also have brought a lot of instability, chaos, and unpredictability into your life. And this may have been especially noticeable in your personal and partnership relationships. Many Taurus natives have gone through divorces, breakups, unstable relationships, or simply the feeling that their love life just wouldn't settle into something solid over the past several years. And the same may have been true in work and business partnerships as well. But starting April 27th, a completely new chapter begins, because Uranus moves into your sector of finances, work, and resources for the next 7 years. And that is a very different story. Uranus is the planet of freedom, innovation, and unconventional choices. So over the next few years, many Taurus people may feel the urge to work for themselves, go freelance, change careers, or try something unusual, something they might never have even considered before. If over the last 7 years, Uranus brought you unusual partners, for example, relationships with someone from a different culture or nationality, a significant age gap, or just generally unconventional love stories, now it will start pushing you toward unconventional work, new income streams, and a freer lifestyle. And you may already start feeling the first signs of that in April. This could show up as unexpected shifts at work, a transfer, changing conditions, a dismissal that later turns out to be a blessing in disguise, or on the other hand, sudden money. Uranus loves surprises, so for some of you, this could even look like a lucky break, a sudden increase in income, or an unexpected opportunity. But April also has another major focus for you, your 12th house, because right now a lot of planets are gathering there. And the 12th house is the house of closure, release, inner preparation, healing, rest, solitude, the past, and faraway places. So for you, April is not only a month of change, it is also a month when you may feel the need to let something go, bring something to completion, free yourself from something, close an old chapter, and spend more time alone with yourself. For some of you, this may show up through travel, a trip, remote work, clients from abroad, or thoughts about living and working in another country. For others, it may show up through a retreat, a clinic, medical checkups, recovery, or restoration, because the 12th house is also connected to isolated, private, and healing spaces. Now let's go step by step. On April 2nd, we have a full moon in your 6th house, and that is the sector of work, routine, lifestyle, health, and daily responsibilities. This full moon may bring clarity around work, a project, a client, your boss, your working conditions, certain professional matters, or changes in business. But it can also simply shine a light on everyday practical matters that need your attention. This may be something very earthy and simple, like needing to renew documents, handle paperwork, fix something at home, start repairs, replace an appliance, or deal with family or household responsibilities. The 6th house also rules pets, so for some of you there may be news or responsibilities connected to a pet. But this full moon may show up most strongly through the theme of lifestyle. Almost like you arrive at a very clear realization, something needs to change. This could be connected to food, your schedule, habits, exercise, health, or medication. For example, you may decide to quit smoking, join a gym, cut out sugar, coffee, or alcohol, start a new routine, change your doctor, adjust your medication or vitamins, or simply begin taking your well-being more seriously. So this full moon is not necessarily dramatic. It is actually very useful. It can help you bring more order into your routine, your health, and your daily life. On April 10th, Mars enters your 12th house and will stay there until May 19th. And Mars is a very active planet, while the 12th house is the opposite. It is quiet, hidden, and deeply internal. So during this time, it may feel like you are clearing things out and making space, both externally and internally. This could be very literal, sorting through your things, getting rid of clutter, decluttering, clearing out old energy. But it can also go much deeper, releasing old attachments, emotions, fatigue, extra weight, or old stories that have outlived their purpose. Mars in the 12th house can also bring travel, especially to a place of healing, solitude, retreat, spiritual renewal, or abroad. It can also awaken an interest in meditation, spiritual practices, faith, sacred places, and inner work. And this is important to understand. Until May 19th, it may feel like you're in a preparation phase. Because on May 19th, Mars will enter your sign, and then the energy changes completely into something much more active, decisive, and forward-moving. But right now, the theme is clear the space first. And what exactly you are releasing, that will be a very personal story for each Taurus. On April 16th, Mercury also enters your 12th house, and that may bring messages, news, people, documents, or conversations from the past. Because the 12th house is also deeply connected to the past. This could show up through archives, old paperwork, messages, people you haven't spoken to in a long time, as well as things connected to foreign countries or long distances. For example, news, packages, documents, or contacts from abroad. On April 17th, we have a new moon in your 12th house, and it will stay active roughly through the end of the month. A new moon always brings something new, but here that new may not be very visible on the outside. It may be something more inner, private, or happening behind the scenes. This could be a new idea, a new trip, a new remote job, a new behind-the-scenes project, charity or spiritual service, a renewed connection with someone from the past, or even a theme connected to life, investments, work, or love abroad, at a distance, in another country, or far away from where you are now. For some of you, this may also show up through a retreat, medical testing, recovery, or even a hospital-related theme, if that is relevant in your life right now. Because the 12th house is connected to everything involving solitude, healing, recovery, treatment, and deep inner reset. But then on April 21st, the sun enters your sign, and the energy shifts very noticeably. This is the beginning of your personal season, your birthdays, and from that point on, you will gradually begin to feel more strength, more energy, more confidence, and more visibility. When the sun enters our sign, it can feel like we start glowing from the inside again. So after a rather private and inward first half of the month, you will begin to step back into the spotlight. From April 1 to April 25, Venus is moving through your sign, and this is a very pleasant transit. It brings beauty, comfort, aesthetics, delicious food, pleasure, self-care, enjoyable events, and gifts. This can show up in very Venusian ways. You may be invited to dinners, the theater, exhibitions. You may receive flowers, buy yourself jewelry, spend time in beautiful places, and simply enjoy life more. Then, on April 25th, Venus enters your second house, and after that date, you may begin to see more noticeable movement around money, profit, gifts, and financial support. And one more very important point. Right now, a stellium of planets is building in your 12th house. Saturn and Neptune are there, and together with Mars, Mercury, the Sun, the Moon, and Chiron, this creates a very strong concentration of energy in the sector of closure, healing, preparation, and deep inner restructuring. So for you, April is not the month to force everything. This is the month to finish something, release something, understand something important about yourself, rest, recover, and ripen into your next chapter. Because very soon, your life is going to move at a completely different speed. But for now, this is the time to close the old chapter and prepare for the new one. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next astrology forecast. Gemini, you are truly the stars of April, because something very powerful is beginning for you. On April 27th, Uranus enters your sign, and it's here for the long haul. 7 years, until May 2033. And Uranus is the planet of freedom, sudden change, unexpected twists, and everything that cannot be predicted in advance. And now it is entering your first house, which means this is no longer just about events happening around you. This is about you. About who you are becoming, how you show up in the world, and what role you are stepping into. And because of that, many of you may experience major life changes over the coming years. A career change, a new status, a new role, a new lifestyle. Some of you may even change your name or completely reinvent your image. You may begin to feel freer, more open, and more ready to express yourself in a different way, to live differently and not the way you used to. And of course, this will also affect your relationship life, because the first house is always connected to the relationship axis, the first and seventh houses. So yes, this can also bring unexpected developments in work and business, a new contract, an offer, a business opportunity you never even planned for. And for some of you, it may show up the other way around. The end of a contract, a job change, or a sudden turn of events that seems unexpected at first, but later turns out to be exactly what moved you into your next chapter. Your personal life can also go through major changes. Uranus can bring breakups or divorces if you have felt for a long time that you are living in a cage and no longer want to continue that way. But if you are single, it can also bring new relationships, and usually, these will not be ordinary stories. This could be someone from a different culture, a different nationality, a significant age difference, or simply a relationship that surprises other people. So yes, a very interesting 7-year chapter is opening for you, and you may already begin to feel the first wave of it in April, especially after the 27th. But aside from that, there is also another very strong focus for you in April. Your 11th house, the house of community, friendships, networking, events, your social circle, and the future. And because many planets are gathering there, this month can be extremely active socially. You may be communicating a lot, going out more, getting invited to events, gatherings, celebrations, or taking part in seminars, webinars, or group experiences where many people are involved. In other words, this is a very social month for you. Now let's go through the key dates. On April 2nd, we have a full moon in your 5th house, and that is the house of love, joy, creativity, pleasure, and children. This can bring something into the light around your romantic life, what is happening in your heart, what you are feeling, and what you truly want. But this is not only about love, it is also about enjoying life. You may suddenly want to travel somewhere, go to the movies, the theater, an exhibition, or finally start doing something that genuinely brings you joy. This can also awaken the theme of talent and self-expression. You may realize that you want to share something, finish a book, show your artwork, start singing, dancing, or devote yourself to a creative hobby. And of course, this is also the house of children. So for some of you, there may be events, news, or joy connected to children. A birthday, school enrollment, or some important milestone. For others, adult children may announce a pregnancy, introduce a partner, or complete their studies. On April 10th, Mars enters your 11th house, and that is when your social life really starts to speed up. You may feel like moving more, meeting people, organizing things, gathering with friends, traveling, and simply being around others. Then, on April 16th, Mercury enters the same house, and this strengthens the themes of communication, introductions, information, and networking. Someone may introduce you to the right person. You may find yourself in the right environment, hear important information, begin a course of study, or even start hosting something yourself, such as webinars, online projects, or community-based work. And then, on April 17th, we have a new moon in your 11th house, and it will stay active through the end of the month. And this is very good timing, because in April, there are no retrograde planets at all. Everything is moving forward, which means you can actually make real progress. So from April 17th through the end of the month, it is very important for you not to isolate yourself, but to do the opposite. Get out there, go to events, meet people, network, build connections, because the 11th house is also the house of supporters, allies, and people who can help open doors for you. And on top of that, it is also the house of results, which means you may receive money, an offer, recognition, an invitation, or a tangible result from something you have been working on previously. On April 23rd, the Sun moves into your 12th house, and the energy shifts a little. After such an active and social phase, you may begin to feel the need for quiet, release, closure, and rest. This can show up as organizing your home, getting rid of clutter, taking a trip, going on a retreat, scheduling treatments or checkups, or simply wanting to slow down and recharge. For some of you, this may even show up through travel or time abroad, because the 12th house is also connected to faraway places and foreign countries. Then, on April 25th, Venus enters your sign, your first house, and will stay there until May 20th. And this is a very beautiful placement. You become more noticeable, more attractive, softer, more magnetic, and more harmonious. You may feel the urge to focus more on your appearance, your style, your wardrobe, beauty treatments, or simply taking better care of yourself. During this period, you are like a magnet. People will naturally be drawn to you, and you may attract attention, gifts, flowers, compliments, and affection. And now, let's come back to the bigger picture. Right now, Saturn and Neptune are already in your 11th house, and together with the other planets, this creates a very powerful theme around your future. Saturn is helping you build something serious, a new system, a new project, a business, possibly something connected to people, community, or the online world. Neptune adds dreams, inspiration, creativity, and the feeling that you are beginning to attract your kind of people, the people who truly resonate with you. And Chiron brings a theme of healing, through communication, through your environment, through other people. It is as if through other people, you begin to understand yourself more deeply, and even heal. So in the end, April is a very full and eventful month for you. A lot of communication, new connections, new opportunities, and at the same time, the beginning of a major new Uranus cycle. In other words, life is truly turning you toward a completely new future. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next astrology forecast. Cancer, your April is honestly amazing, and it is especially important for your career, work, business, status, and overall direction in life. Because this month, a huge number of planets are gathering in your 10th house, and the 10th house is all about who you are in this world, what you do, what your status is, what role you play, what you show people, and where you are headed in life. So yes, this month can truly be a major turning point. For some of you, this may show up as a job change. For others, as a career shift, important business changes, or even through relationships and status. For example, a proposal, marriage, or for some, even the topic of divorce. But overall, I do believe that all of this is moving in a positive direction for Cancer, because Jupiter is still in Cancer until July, and Jupiter is, after all, the planet of luck, expansion, abundance, profit, and blessings. Jupiter is helping especially strongly right now if you have a Cancer ascendant from 15 to 18 degrees, or if your birthday falls between July 8 and July 11. And if you also have your moon in Cancer in those degrees, that is another very positive sign. So yes, if you fall into those dates, maybe even buy a lottery ticket. Why not? Jupiter does love pleasant surprises. Now let's go step by step. On April 2nd, we have a full moon in your fourth house, and the fourth house rules home, family, place of residence, real estate, parents, roots, emotional security, and your sense of belonging. So this full moon can bring these themes very strongly into focus. For some of you, this may be connected to moving. For others, to renovation, buying furniture or appliances, or making important decisions related to your home. And yes, this is actually a great month to make purchases, because in April, we have no retrograde planets at all, which means it is an excellent month for moving things forward, developing plans, handling paperwork, launching things, and making progress. The full moon on April 2nd can also bring news related to family, and not only involving the people you live with, but also your parents, especially your mother. For some of you, this may show up through documents, registration, visas, citizenship, changing a passport, and for others through themes connected to your roots, ancestry, grandparents, or something important within the family line. And this full moon will be felt especially strongly 3 days before and 3 days after April 2, so this is definitely one of the more noticeable moments of the month. But after that, your 10th house becomes very active. On April 10th, Mars enters your 10th house, and from that moment on, the theme of career, status, work, business, and major decisions starts getting much louder. Mars is the planet of action, courage, initiative, and determination. And here, it can bring very concrete steps. You make a decision about your work, your business, or your professional path. This could look like an important conversation with your boss, a business trip, launching a business, selling a business, changing careers, or starting to study something new. Mars brings the energy of, I've decided, I'm doing this! And it is important to understand that this Mars will not affect only your work life. Because the 10th house stands opposite the 4th house, which is connected to where you live, and Mars will also be touching your personal sector and your relationship axis. So during this period, you may be making very important decisions not only about career, but also about marriage, relationships, relocation, and your overall direction in life. On April 16th, Mercury also enters your 10th house, and this adds the themes of news, documents, conversations, paperwork, information, messages, learning, and public speaking. So during this time, important documents may arrive. You may receive a diploma or a certificate, pass an exam, defend a project or thesis, speak publicly, communicate with leadership, or simply receive very important information related to your career and status. And then, on April 17th, we have a new moon in your 10th house. And a new moon always brings new energy and a fresh beginning. When it happens in the 10th house, it very often brings a new job, a new position, a new business, a new collaboration, a new offer, or a new opportunity. So from April 17 through the end of the month, you have a very powerful window of opportunity opening up. And this really can feel like a portal into something new. New doors open, new people appear, and a new role begins to take shape. And yes, sometimes this can show up not only through work, but also through relationship status. For example, an engagement or marriage. On April 21st, the Sun moves into your 11th house, and after that, the focus shifts more toward results, friends, your social circle, community, events, invitations, and recognition. The 11th house is the place where you begin to receive the fruits of your efforts. This can show up as money, results from previous work, recognition, invitations to events, concerts, weddings, birthdays, or participation in some kind of gathering. Or on the other hand, you may be the one organizing something yourself. This is also the house of being noticed, recognized, highlighted, rewarded, or acknowledged. Someone may give you a prize, a certificate, an award, or simply visible approval and appreciation. It is a very pleasant sector. From April 1 to April 25, Venus is moving through your 11th house, so overall, April is quite social and enjoyable for you. There may be meetings with friends, trips, invitations, events, easy communication, and the feeling that you are not isolated at all. You are actually living a very active social life. Then, on April 25th, Venus enters your 12th house, and here the energy becomes more personal, subtle, and private. This can play out in many different ways. For example, as a relationship you are not ready to talk about yet, or as very private feelings, dates you keep to yourself, or even a long-distance relationship. But Venus is not only about love, it is also about pleasure, beauty, harmony, and comfort. And the 12th house is connected to retreats, wellness centers, recovery spaces, beauty clinics, massages, treatments, rest, and solitude. So after April 25th, this is a very good time to do something just for yourself. Go on a getaway, book a treatment course, get a massage, focus on recovery, or simply do something beautiful and nourishing for your body and inner state. This can also show up through charity. For example, attending a charity dinner or participating in a meaningful event for a good cause. And now, one of the most important events, not only of April, but of the next several years. On April 27th, Uranus enters your 12th house for 7 years, until May 2033. And this is a very serious shift, because the 12th house is a very deep and subtle part of the chart. It rules your inner world, subconscious mind, private life, faraway countries, emigration, solitude, spirituality, spiritual practices, healing, and everything that happens behind the scenes. And Uranus is the planet of freedom, liberation, change, and breaking boundaries. So it really feels like over the next 7 years, what will begin changing most powerfully for you is your inner world and your private life. For example, if in the past you lived a more closed or limited lifestyle, traveled less, or rarely stepped outside your familiar world, that may now begin to change. There may be more trips, flights, long-distance living, and online connections, because Uranus is also connected to aviation, the internet, and new ways of living. For some of you, this may show up as remote work, moving into the online space, or working not from an office, but from home or from another country. For others, it may show up as relocation, immigration, or simply the feeling that your life is becoming more connected to somewhere far away. And for some of you, this may awaken a strong interest in esotericism, astrology, meditation, healing practices, mysticism, and spirituality. And yes, for some Cancer natives, this could even become part of your work or business. So April 27 does not just launch a new transit, it launches a very deep inner restructuring, and it really can completely transform your inner world. And at the same time, against this backdrop, your 10th house is also being activated very powerfully. So what is changing for you is not only your inner state, but also your outer role in the world. Because in your 10th house, along with Mars, Mercury, the Sun, and the Moon, you also now have Saturn and Neptune. And that is already a very serious story. This will be felt especially strongly by those of you who have a Cancer ascendant from 2 to 9 degrees, or those who were born in June. So what is happening here? Neptune can literally begin to dissolve the old structure of your work, your old profession, your old life pattern, and the way you used to live and function. Something may begin to fade, dissolve, or stop working the way it used to. And at the very same time, Saturn is saying, build something new, build a new foundation, build a new profession, a new system, a new career, a new source of stability. So the old is slowly leaving, and the new is gradually beginning to take shape. And if you look at the bigger picture, you now have an incredible concentration of energy in your sector of career and achievement. Mars, Mercury, the Sun, the Moon, Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron. That is 7 planets in the sector of goals, career, status, work, and achievement. And this is very rare and very powerful energy. Chiron is currently at 25 degrees, and it will be felt especially strongly by those who have a Cancer ascendant at 25 degrees, or a birthday approximately between July 17 and July 19th. And Chiron is a very interesting energy. It is the healer, the teacher, the bridge between one role and another. And sometimes it can even show up as 2 parallel professions, or working in one field while gradually transitioning into another. So yes, that is your April Cancer. Very important, very full, and truly life-changing. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next astrology forecast. Leo, April is truly a very powerful month for you. In April, we don't have a single retrograde planet. Everything is moving forward. And that means this is a rare period when you can confidently start, launch, move ahead, buy, sign, and take action without feeling held back. And for you, this is especially important because your ninth house is being activated very strongly. And the ninth house is about expansion of consciousness, new horizons, travel, education, global thinking, foreigners, life abroad, and new perspectives on life. So the overall feeling is that you are beginning to think bigger, broader, and more globally, as if you are stepping into an entirely different level of awareness. For many Leos, this will absolutely show up through travel, journeys, or contact with other cultures. Now let's go through the key dates. On April 2nd, we have a full moon in your third house, and that is the house of communication, news, contacts, documents, and short-distance travel. So something important may happen here. A conversation that clears a lot up, news that changes your perspective, or a meeting that influences the way you think. This can also show up in a more practical way. Finishing a course of study, receiving a diploma or certificate, completing documents, or handling paperwork connected to travel. There may also be events involving siblings, relatives, or neighbors. And by the way, this is also the house of transportation, so for some of you, this may show up as buying or selling a car, or simply a trip. Maybe not far, but still important in meaning. This full moon will likely be felt most strongly 3 days before and 3 days after April 7th. Then, on April 10th, Mars enters your ninth house. And Mars is about action, movement, courage, and decisiveness, so it will literally start pushing you forward. This may show up as taking exams, publishing something, working with a publisher, handling official documents, travel, flights, visas, embassy interviews, permanent residency, or citizenship. For some of you, this could even become the theme of relocation or immigration. It can also bring connections with foreigners, both in personal life and in business. Clients from other countries, international partners, collaborations, import-export, or cross-border opportunities. In other words, life begins pulling you beyond your usual boundaries. Then, on April 16th, Mercury also enters your ninth house, and that strengthens the themes of documents, tickets, messages, news, information, and communication. This may show up as applying for a passport, booking travel, receiving news from far away, or handling important paperwork. But there is also a more subtle layer here. This may not be only about external information, but also about inner realization. Sometimes this transit plays out in a very simple but powerful way. You read a book, watch a film, hear something, and suddenly your entire mindset shifts. You begin to see life differently. Then, on April 17th, we have a new moon in your ninth house, and this is a very powerful new moon. It launches a whole new energy, and quite often, this can even bring a new source of income connected to ninth house themes. For example, you begin teaching, giving lectures, going international, working with foreign clients, selling your services or products abroad, speaking publicly, or scaling your work to a larger audience. For some of you, this may show up through a new person entering your life, also through the ninth house theme, someone from a different culture, another country, or a completely different worldview. And for others, this may be connected to even bigger themes: relocation, life in another country, citizenship, discovering a different culture, or entering a more global way of living. This new moon is literally about expansion. It is as if you are moving up to a higher level and beginning to think globally. The ninth house is also connected to luck, so this can bring opportunities, offers, good news, and doors opening. And this is where it becomes very important not to get scared, but to say yes, because this window will stay active roughly from April 17 to May 20, and whatever you begin during this period has strong growth potential. Then, on April 21st, the Sun moves into your 10th house, and the focus gradually begins to shift toward career, goals, ambition, status, and reputation. So first, you expand, and then you begin to turn that expansion into something real. This can bring a promotion, a new status, business growth, recognition, or upward movement in your professional life. Then, on April 25th, Venus enters your 11th house, and this opens up a very pleasant social storyline. This can bring more communication, more meetings, invitations, friends, events, and social activity. It may show up as participating in events, being more active online, public appearances, or new social connections. And then, just a couple of days later, one of the most important events of the month happens. On April 27th, Uranus enters your 11th house for 7 years, until 2033. And this is where a major restructuring of your social life begins. Your circle of people may change dramatically. You may suddenly find yourself in completely different social circles, meeting unusual, brilliant, and highly unconventional people. Uranus always brings something new, unexpected, liberating, and different. You may begin to feel freer in your communication, with a new circle of friends, new ideas, and new dreams. Because the 11th house is also the house of dreams and the future. And what you once thought was impossible may suddenly begin to feel completely possible. And there is another important layer here. The 11th house is also the house of results and rewards. So over the coming years, some of you may receive awards, recognition, public status, representation roles, or become the face of a company, project, or brand. And it is also important to understand that before this, Uranus spent nearly 8 years in your 10th house of career, and it may have already brought major shifts in your work, direction, and public role. And now that cycle is ending, so you may begin to feel that an old chapter of your career is closing, and with it, your goals, ambitions, and life direction are changing too. Some of you will leave traditional employment, others may step into leadership, some will change careers, and some may completely reinvent their professional path. And at the same time, your 9th house is still being activated very powerfully. Because right now, in that house, you have Mars, Mercury, the Sun, the Moon, Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron. And it truly feels as if a portal of opportunity is opening, helping you expand, believe in yourself, and begin turning your ideas into reality. Neptune here brings faith, new beliefs, inspiration, and vision. Saturn says, build it, make it real, this is possible. And Chiron may bring the theme of the teacher. Either you meet someone who changes your mindset, or you become the one who shares wisdom and helps others. And finally, one more important point. Pluto is in your 7th house, and it is currently influencing especially strongly those Leos who have a Leo ascendant around 5 degrees, or a birthday around July 29-30. This can bring very powerful, intense relationships. If it is love, it can be passion, depth, intensity, and sometimes even extremes. If it is business, it can bring partners with resources, influence, power, and a strong presence. And one more thing. Until July 1st, Jupiter is still in your 12th house, helping you through inner work, travel, solitude, and reflection to better understand yourself and prepare for your next major chapter. Because already this summer, Jupiter will enter your sign. So overall, Leo, April is a month when you can truly move to a whole new level, internally, externally, mentally, socially, and in your goals. The most important thing is this: do not hold yourself back, and do not be afraid to expand. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next astrology forecast. Virgo, in April, we don't have a single retrograde planet at all. Everything is moving forward, everything is progressing, and that means this is truly a great time to start, launch, promote, and develop anything you want. And this is especially true for your financial sphere, because in April there is a very strong emphasis for you on money, income, resources, support, investments, and everything connected to the material side of life. As early as April 2nd, you have a full moon in your 2nd house, which is the house of income, salary, work, earnings, your personal resources, and what you rely on financially. And this full moon can bring a very important financial topic into the spotlight. For some of you, this may be a major purchase. For others, an investment, a job change, or a promotion. And for some, it may simply be important news related to money. This can show up as receiving money, or on the other hand, closing out a financial cycle. For example, someone who used to support you may now say, I can't continue anymore. Or on the flip side, a long-standing expense may finally come to an end. A final loan payment, the end of rent payments, finishing tuition payments for a child, or any situation where your money and energy stop being drained. So this full moon can not only bring something in, but also lift an old financial burden. Then, your eighth house becomes very strongly activated. And this is where the financial story goes much deeper. On April 10th, Mars enters your eighth house. And the eighth house is not just about your own money. It's about shared finances, other people's resources, investments, loans, insurance, taxes, payouts, alimony, support, your partner's money, institutional money, and banking systems. So after April 10th, you may begin to deal much more actively with these kinds of financial matters. This could include applying for financial support, alimony, scholarships, insurance payouts, tax-related matters, or banking processes. For some of you, this could even be about an investor entering your business, or someone proposing a joint financial project. In other words, after April 10th, you may benefit from outside resources, and this is not necessarily negative. It can be a very supportive and helpful development, where you receive money, assistance, or access to resources that help you move forward. However, the eighth house also rules unexpected expenses, situations where money is needed urgently. For example, something breaks at home, urgent repairs, health-related expenses, household or technical costs. So these kinds of expenses are also possible, and it's simply important to stay a little more aware and prepared. On April 16th, Mercury also enters your eighth house, bringing in news, documents, calls, emails, paperwork, offers, and negotiations. This could be signing a contract, for example, renting a place together with someone and signing a lease. Or it could be financial news. Sometimes the eighth house can also bring less pleasant things, like a fine, a bank notice, a tax letter, an audit, or something that requires urgent payment or resolution. But on the other hand, this can also bring very good opportunities. Someone may want to invest in your business, build something together, or offer financial collaboration, support, or a joint venture. And then, on April 17th, we have a new moon in your eighth house. And this is a true financial new moon. A new moon always brings a new cycle, new energy, and a starting point. And in the eighth house, it can bring very tangible financial developments. For example, a new source of income, a new amount of money, money you have been waiting for, a debt being repaid, support from a person or an institution, an insurance payout, a tax refund, an inheritance, or simply important financial news. So this new moon often brings not just an idea, but actual movement of money. Secondly, this is also a very strong new moon for conception, because the eighth house is connected to intimacy, depth, transformation, and creation. So if this topic is relevant for you, the period from April 17th through the end of the month may be very important, especially if you are thinking about IVF or conception in general. Also, for some of you, this new moon may bring up the topic of surgery, a medical procedure, or an important decision related to your body or recovery. Then, on April 21st, the sun moves into your ninth house, and the energy begins to expand. The ninth house is about travel, foreign countries, education, new horizons, international connections, and global expansion. So after the deep and financial focus of the first half of the month, you may feel the desire to exhale, think bigger, travel, or step outside of your usual environment. This may show up as travel, booking hotels or flights, applying for a passport, meeting someone from another culture, working with international clients, expanding into new markets, or scaling your work. Then, on April 25th, Venus enters your 10th house, and this brings a very beautiful and visible shift. Because the 10th house is about goals, achievements, ambition, work, status, profession, career, and reputation. And when Venus enters this house, it begins to make this area of life more harmonious, visible, attractive, and successful. This is where your status can change. It can show up as a proposal or marriage in your personal life, or as a new job offer, a better position, or a more inspiring professional direction. Venus in the 10th house can also bring recognition, attention, a positive public image, awards, prizes, and the feeling that you are being seen and appreciated. For some of you, this may even look like becoming the face of a company, a representative, or someone others look up to. But almost immediately after that, an even more powerful shift begins. On April 27th, Uranus enters your 10th house for 7 years. And this is serious, because Uranus is the planet of change, unpredictability, freedom, sudden turns, and unconventional paths. And it is entering your career, status, profession, and public life sector. So starting from April 27th, a long and very important cycle begins, one that will reshape your career, your work structure, your status, and what you actually do in life. This can play out in many different ways. You may suddenly leave a job, your company structure may change dramatically, management may change, a company may close, you may decide to learn a new profession, switch industries, or start your own business. The key idea is that your answer to "what do I do and how do I live" is beginning to change in a very significant way. And yes, this can truly take you to a completely new level of income, work style, and lifestyle. And if we look at April as a whole, it becomes clear just how financially intense and eventful it is for you. Because you have a full moon in your second house of money, Mars, Mercury, the Sun, and the moon in your eighth house of finances, Saturn and Neptune there as well, and then Uranus entering your 10th house of career. So everything is pointing to a major restructuring of your financial and professional reality. Neptune in the 8th house may begin to dissolve your old financial system, your old business model, your old way of earning, your old structure. You may simply realize at some point, I don't want to do this anymore. And at the same time, Saturn says, then build something new, create a new foundation, develop a new system, build a new way of living and earning. This is a serious, mature, and deeply transformative process. And on top of that, you also have Chiron in your 8th house. And Chiron carries the energy of wisdom, healing, and the healer archetype. For some of you, this may show up very literally. You may meet a person who helps you heal, a therapist, a consultant, a doctor, a healer. And for others, this may be the beginning of a path where you become the one who helps others. This could awaken an interest in nutrition, herbal practices, healing methods, psychology, body-based work, energy work, or anything deep and transformative. And remember, the 8th house is also the house of intimacy, depth, mystery, esotericism, transformation, and hidden knowledge. So for some of you, April may not even play out primarily through money, but through a deep dive into psychology, spirituality, mysticism, or esoteric studies. This is a very deep month, not superficial at all. And yes, the 8th house is also connected to official structures. So for some, there may indeed be interactions with banks, taxes, authorities, audits, or formal institutions. But hopefully, for most Virgos, this will not be a month of stress, but a month of financial growth, a new level of income, and inner empowerment. Because the potential of this April for you is truly very strong. It can change a lot. How you earn, how much you earn, what you rely on, and what you actually want to do moving forward. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next astrology forecast. Libra. April is a very important month for you, because this month we don't have a single retrograde planet. Everything is moving forward, which means this is a very good time to take action, start something new, move your plans ahead, and take real steps toward what you want. And for you, this month can truly shift a lot. As early as April 2nd, you have a full moon in your sign, in your first house. And the first house is always about you, who you are, how you show up, what you want, and how you relate to yourself. So this full moon can bring a very strong spotlight onto your identity, your emotional state, your personal role, and also onto your relationships, because the first house is always part of the relationship axis. So around April 2nd, something very important may become clear. You may receive an answer from someone, a cycle may come to completion, or you may suddenly understand what no longer fits your life, and what it is finally time to begin. And this can apply both to personal relationships and work partnerships. This full moon will be felt especially strongly by those who have a Libra ascendant at 12 degrees, plus or minus 3 degrees, so roughly from 9 to 15 degrees Libra. It may also be especially noticeable if your birthday falls on October 6th, or roughly between October 3rd and October 9th. But overall, all Libras will feel this full moon in some way. Then, your seventh house becomes very strongly activated, and this is probably the main theme of April for you. Because in the area of relationships, partnership, love, marriage, divorce, agreements, collaborations, and all important people in your life, you now have a stellium of planets gathering. On April 10th, Mars enters your seventh house and will stay there until May 19th. And Mars is the planet of action, desire, courage, initiative, and movement. So when Mars enters the house of relationships, it means the topic of other people becomes highly active. Something starts happening: meetings, decisions, conversations, attraction, tension, movement, development. Then, on April 16th, Mercury also enters your seventh house, and Mercury brings in negotiations, new connections, agreements, paperwork, contracts, news, information, and communication. So the topic of relationships and partnership becomes not only emotional, but also very concrete and real world. You may be making agreements with someone, signing something, discussing important matters, or entering into a new union or alliance. And then comes one of the strongest events of the month. On April 17th, we have a new moon in your seventh house, and this is truly a new cycle in relationships. This can bring a new connection, a new relationship, a new client, a new business partner, a new collaboration, or a new contract. For some of you, this may show up as starting to work with a company or organization. For others, it may be a lease agreement or an important arrangement that changes a lot. And for some, this may be a very personal story: a proposal, a commitment ceremony, marriage, or on the other hand, the beginning of a new life after divorce. And yes, sometimes that can be very freeing too. Sometimes this new moon may play out through your partner. For example, something important begins in their life, but you will be deeply involved in that process as well. Then, on April 21st, the Sun moves into your eighth house, and now the energy begins to go deeper. Because the eighth house is about shared finances, other people's resources, banks, taxes, loans, inheritance, alimony, division of assets, and everything connected to joint or shared material realities. So after April 21st, you may begin dealing with these kinds of issues more directly. This can look like handling something financial, accessing someone's support, receiving help, dealing with property division, bank-related matters, your partner's money, or simply the opportunity to benefit from outside resources in a helpful way. But the eighth house is also a deep psychological and mystical house. So for some of you, after April 21st, the themes of psychology, psychotherapy, inner transformation, self-discovery, hidden truths, and deep emotional understanding may become much stronger. Then, on April 25th, Venus enters your ninth house, and this is a very pleasant shift. The ninth house rules foreign countries, travel, visas, education, publishing, people from other countries, broadening your worldview, and expansion. So after April 25th, something very positive may begin to unfold in one of these areas. This could be a trip, good news related to a visa or passport, a travel gift, a relationship with someone from another country, success in teaching, blogging, marketing, publishing, or promoting yourself and your services. And then comes another major turning point. On April 27th, Uranus enters your ninth house for 7 years. And this is a very big shift, because before this, Uranus spent nearly 8 years in your eighth house, and if over those years you experienced financial instability, especially involving other people's money, debt, support, or shared resources, then that chapter is now beginning to close. For some of you, this may also bring the end of relationships that were held together only by drama, dependency, or intensity without true depth. Or perhaps the ending of a shared business arrangement. But as Uranus enters your ninth house, it begins to open up an entirely new world for you. Because the ninth house is about travel, relocation, immigration, education, new knowledge, a different mindset, freedom, and a whole new outlook on life. So starting from April 27th, you may enter a period where you genuinely feel that life has become bigger. Some of you may move, Some may begin traveling a lot. Some may start studying something completely unexpected. Some may begin connecting with people from other countries. And for others, it may simply be that your beliefs and worldview begin to change completely. This is a very powerful transit because it can literally break apart old ways of thinking and open up entirely new horizons. And at the same time, you still have a very powerful story unfolding in your seventh house, because that is where your stellium is. You have Mars, Mercury, the Sun, the Moon, Saturn, and Neptune there. So the theme of relationships is not just active right now, it is being completely restructured. Saturn in the seventh house brings seriousness. It wants your relationships to be built on values, maturity, structure, and reality. Not on fantasy, but on something that can actually last. And Saturn is affecting especially strongly those Libras who have a Libra ascendant from 5 to 9 degrees, or birthdays between September 29 and October 3. Neptune, on the other hand, may begin to dissolve what no longer belongs in your life. It can wash away old relationships that no longer have real life in them in order to eventually make space for something deep, beautiful, and almost unconditional. And Neptune will be felt especially strongly this month by those with a Libra ascendant at 2 or 3 degrees, or birthdays on September 25 or 26. And in that same seventh house, you also have Chiron. And Chiron is about healing through relationships. This is when someone may enter your life and change you deeply, help you, or even heal something within you. Or on the other hand, you may feel the call to move toward psychology, medicine, counseling, helping others, or healing work yourself. So, dear Libra, April is a very powerful month for you. It can change many things at once. You, your relationships, your agreements, your financial reality, and even your entire worldview. And this truly is the beginning of a new chapter. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next astrology forecast. Scorpio, your April begins with a very important turning point, and that shift is coming from Uranus. For almost 8 years, Uranus has been moving through your relationship sector, ever since May 15, 2018. And during that time, many of you may have experienced instability in relationships, breakups, divorces, sudden unions, attraction to unusual people, people from other countries, people from very different backgrounds, significant age gaps, or simply relationships that felt highly unconventional. Because Uranus rarely brings calm, it brings freedom, chaos, unpredictability, and disruption. And now, on April 27th, Uranus finally leaves your relationship sector, and it leaves for a very long time, 84 years. So if the past several years have felt unstable in love, or if your personal life has carried that feeling of nothing ever really settles, that chapter is now coming to an end. And by the way, think back to May 2018 or March 2019. Very often, what began when Uranus entered a sign or house begins to complete itself as Uranus exits, and that may be exactly what is happening for you now in 2026. Now Uranus enters your 8th house, and this is a completely different story, because the 8th house is about finances, shared resources, other people's money, loans, debt, investments, taxes, inheritance, and deep energetic exchange. And here, a new 7-year cycle begins, and it may be very unexpected. This can bring freedom from debt, release from financial obligations, unexpected money, investments, support, especially if it is connected to technology, the internet, innovation, or something unconventional. For some of you, this may also bring changes in a shared business or the division of property, especially if a relationship chapter is also coming to an end. Because the 8th house is everything that is shared, and Uranus is about freedom. So yes, this can bring sudden decisions like leaving a partnership, ending a joint project, or dividing resources. And the 8th house is also the house of intimacy, secrets, mysticism, and deep emotional bonds. So for some of you, this may awaken an interest in esoteric studies, spiritual practices, psychology, or bring very unexpected, deep, and unconventional relationships. It is also a house connected to conception, and with Uranus here, some of you may explore new or alternative methods, including IVF. And in general, the next 7 years may bring situations that happen out of nowhere, sudden shifts, unexpected meetings, major turns of events that simply cannot be planned in advance. Now let's move through April itself. On April 2nd, we have a full moon in your 12th house. And the 12th house is the house of closure, secrets, the inner world, healing, and what is hidden beneath the surface. So roughly from April 1 to April 5, something may become revealed or deeply understood. This can show up as therapy, a visit to a clinic or wellness center, medical testing, or simply a profound inner realization about yourself. Because the 12th house is all about what is hidden, and you may now understand something important about yourself and finally be ready to release it. This is also a strong time for cleansing, letting go of what you no longer need, donating things, doing spiritual or healing practices. Dreams may be especially powerful during this time, and even the theme of charity or helping others may become more present. Then, your 6th house begins to activate very strongly, and this becomes the main storyline of the month. On April 10th, Mars enters your 6th house, and the 6th house rules work, routine, health, habits, daily life, and practical responsibilities. Mars brings movement into this area. This may show up as a job change, business trips, conversations with management, a heavy workload, more tasks, and sometimes even tension or conflict at work, including with colleagues or subordinates. It can also show up through health, checkups, procedures, treatments, or even surgery if that is relevant. You may feel drawn toward more exercise, movement, and physical activity. For some of you, this may mean more clients and more work. For others, it may mean practical issues at home or in daily life that suddenly need urgent attention. Then, on April 16th, Mercury enters the same 6th house, adding news, paperwork, conversations, work processes, communication with clients or assistants, doctors, test results, meal plans, routines, and scheduling. This can be a very productive time for organizing your life and your body more intentionally. Then, on April 17th, we have a new moon in your 6th house, and this is the start of a new cycle in work and lifestyle. This can bring a new job, a new project, new clients, a new daily routine, a new doctor, new habits, or even practical upgrades like home equipment, filters, appliances, or anything that improves your day-to-day quality of life. In other words, this is about building a life that functions better for you. Then, on April 21st, the Sun moves into your 7th house, and now the theme of relationships and partnerships returns, but this time in a more conscious and grounded form. This can show up through conversations with a partner, meetings with lawyers or real estate agents, agreements, deals, contract signing, buying and selling, or other important one-on-one interactions. And from April 1 to April 25th, Venus is already in your 7th house, in Taurus, where Venus feels very comfortable and strong. So this brings pleasant developments in relationships, new connections, dates, gifts, warm communication, affection, and positive news in love or partnership. Then, on April 25th, Venus moves into your 8th house, and now the theme shifts more toward money and deeper intimacy. This can bring profit, financial support, positive responses from banks, shared resources, and also deeper emotional and physical closeness in relationships. And now, the most important part. Right now, you have a stellium in your 6th house. Mars, Mercury, the Sun, the Moon, Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron. That is 7 planets in the sector of work, health, routine, and lifestyle, which means that this area of your life is going through a serious restructuring. Neptune may begin to dissolve your old work reality. You may lose interest in what you used to do. You may leave a job, shift direction, or feel that your old path is simply no longer aligned. And at the same time, Saturn says, build something new, create a new system, build a new foundation, a new job, a new business, a new way of living. So this may become a major transition, a new job, a new team, new conditions, new rules, a new structure for your life. And Chiron adds the theme of healing. You may find a doctor, therapist, or specialist who truly helps you. Or on the other hand, you may feel called to move into the world of helping others. Psychology, medicine, nutrition, healing work, or holistic practices. This can be about both physical and emotional healing. And Quran also carries the theme of duality: two approaches, two jobs, two paths, or working in partnership. So in the end, April is a month where several major life themes are shifting at once. Your relationship story is changing through Uranus leaving, a new financial cycle is beginning, and your work, health, habits, and lifestyle are being deeply restructured. And yes, this truly is the beginning of a new chapter. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next astrology forecast. Sagittarius, in April, we have no retrograde planets at all. Everything is moving forward, and nothing is slowing you down. This is a rare moment when you can confidently start, move ahead, and take real steps toward your desires. So yes, April is a powerful time for forward movement. And your main event this month is, of course, Uranus. On April 27th, Uranus enters your 7th house, the sector of love, marriage, partnerships, and contracts, and it will stay there for 7 years, until May 2033. This means that your relationship sphere is about to change significantly. And these changes won't affect only you. Your partners themselves may go through shifts in their lives, careers, or personal circumstances. The first to feel this will be early November Sagittarians, but over time, this transit will touch all of you. Uranus brings the unconventional into relationships. Connections with people from other countries, people from different cultures or religions, significant age differences, or relationships that don't follow the usual rules. These may be unions that surprise even you, or even situations like relocation or emigration through a relationship. Sometimes, through another person, your entire worldview can change. And this is not only about love. Uranus will also transform your business partnerships, agreements, and contracts. In some cases, you may break free from old obligations. In others, partnerships may end. And in others, something completely new begins. And all of this tends to happen unexpectedly. For some, this will bring exciting, happy relationships. For others, a period of freedom and experimentation. Now let's go step by step. On April 7th, we have a full moon in your 11th house. This is the house of friends, social circles, events, and community. So between April 1st and April 5, you may receive invitations to gatherings, celebrations, group events, or social activities. You may also complete something connected to a group or community. This is also the house of results, so you may receive money, recognition, or good news. There could also be an important conversation with a friend, or a meaningful connection through your network. But the main focus of the month is still your 5th house. On April 10th, Mars enters your 5th house, activating the themes of love, pleasure, creativity, and children. This can bring romance, strong attraction, the desire to live more fully, enjoy life, and do what you truly love. For some of you, there may be active developments related to children. Mars also brings energy into sports, movement, excitement, creativity, and passion. You may feel the urge to take action, try new things, and fully engage with life. Then, on April 16th, Mercury enters the same 5th house, bringing more communication, dates, messages, meetings, short trips, and news. Life in this area becomes more dynamic and eventful. Then comes a key moment. On April 17th, we have a new moon in your 5th house, and this marks the beginning of a new chapter of joy. This can bring a new romantic story, a new creative project, a new hobby, or simply a feeling that life becomes exciting again. And what makes this especially powerful is that in your 5th house, you now have not only Mars, Mercury, the Sun, and the Moon, but also Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron, which means 7 celestial bodies in one sector. Saturn brings responsibility and structure. This may relate to children, serious relationships, or creating more stability in your personal life. Neptune brings inspiration, creativity, romance, and emotional depth, but it can also dissolve what no longer has meaning. It may also connect to themes of water, travel, rest, or escape. Chiron brings healing through love, creativity, or a child. Sometimes through a person who may seem unexpected or not your type, but turns out to be deeply significant. Then, on April 21st, the Sun moves into your 6th house, shifting your focus to more practical matters. Work, routine, health, and daily life. You may have more tasks, changes at work, new assistants, or new systems. For some, this may bring attention to health, checkups, or daily habits. Then, on April 25th, Venus enters your seventh house of relationships and will stay there until May 20th. This is a very pleasant period. It becomes easier to connect, meet people, build relationships, negotiate, and sign agreements. And almost immediately after that, on April 27th, Uranus enters the same seventh house. And here, things can move quickly and unexpectedly. Sudden meetings, fast-moving relationships, unexpected proposals, or surprising partnerships. And again, this is not only about love. This can also bring profitable contracts, business partnerships, and opportunities through other people. And since Venus is also connected to money, opportunities may come through relationships and connections. And one more important point. Jupiter is currently in your eighth house of finances. This gives you a kind of protection. Even in more challenging situations, there tends to be support, financial help, or resources showing up when you need them. It's like having a safety net. So overall, April is launching a new chapter in your relationships, while at the same time amplifying the themes of love, joy, creativity, and self-expression. And your main task now is simple. Move toward what genuinely excites you, because that's exactly where your growth begins. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next astrology forecast. Capricorn, April brings a very important turning point for you. On April 27th, Uranus changes signs and enters your sixth house for 7 years, until May 2033. The sixth house rules work, health, routine, habits, and daily life. And Uranus here almost always brings surprises, change, and sudden turns. You may suddenly change jobs, switch careers, go freelance, start your own business, or simply reach a point where you say, "That's it. I don't want to live like this anymore." Uranus is the planet of freedom, so for those of you who have wanted to work for yourselves for a long time, this is a very powerful cycle. For some of you, the format of your work may change. You may start working from home more, caring for children, going remote, traveling for work, staying constantly on the move, or no longer being tied to one place. For others, it may unfold in a completely unexpected way. A company closing, a transfer to another department or city, or, on the flip side, a sudden promotion. With Uranus, one thing is always true. It won't go the way you expected. And this is not only about work. It also affects your health. If there has been a chronic issue, a new technology, method, or treatment may appear that actually helps. The sixth house is also about habits and routine. And with Uranus, those can change very abruptly. One day, you may simply wake up and decide that you no longer smoke, no longer drink coffee, no longer eat meat, or that you are completely changing your lifestyle. Many Capricorns will begin to feel the first strong signals of this already in late April to early May, because Uranus is often felt most strongly right when it enters a new house. And in general, this is a transit that only happens once every 84 years, so the changes here are truly significant. At the same time, you still have Jupiter in your seventh house of relationships, and it is helping especially strongly those Capricorns who have an ascendant from 15 to 18 degrees, or a birthday between January 6 and January 9. For you in particular, there may be extra luck in love, dating, partnerships, as well as in contracts, deals, and business alliances. Now let's go step by step. On April 2nd, there is a full moon in your 10th house, the house of career, work, status, authority, and your role in society. A full moon here can bring a culmination, the completion of a project, a promotion, a change in status, or important news related to work. But the 10th house is also your overall life status, not only what you do, but who you are at this moment. Married, divorced, expecting a child, or stepping into a new life chapter. So this full moon may also highlight personal changes such as an engagement, marriage, pregnancy, the birth of a child, a separation, or an important conversation after which everything becomes clear. It can also show up through a diploma, an interview, or news involving your father or a boss, and it will be felt most strongly between April 1st and April 5. On April 10th, Mars enters your fourth house and stays there until mid-May, activating themes of home, family, living situation, and real estate. This may look like a move, renovation, apartment hunting, buying or selling property, or travel connected to family matters. You may be making decisions about children, school, or living arrangements. The fourth house is also connected to your mother, so this can bring a visit, a trip to see her, or important news involving her. And since there are no retrograde planets in April, this is a very good time to move these matters forward. On April 16th, Mercury also enters your fourth house, bringing calls, documents, news, and negotiations. This may relate to real estate, renting, paperwork, registration, housing arrangements, or simply important family news. On April 17th, there is a new moon in your fourth house, and this is a powerful point of new beginnings. The fourth house represents your foundation, where you live, where you feel safe, and what you call home. And this is exactly where you have 7 celestial bodies gathering in April, so the entire month strongly revolves around questions of home, family, real estate, moving, or renovation. This new moon can bring something new into your home life: a new person, a child, a pet, a move, or a shift in family structure. Someone may move in, someone may move out, or the atmosphere in the home may change in a noticeable way. On April 21st, the sun moves into your fifth house, and after that, themes of pleasure, love, creativity, children, and enjoyment become stronger. You may simply begin to want more joy, more life, and more beautiful experiences. On April 25th, Venus enters your sixth house, bringing something pleasant into your work environment. This can show up as better relationships with colleagues or clients, a bonus, a payment, or simply more ease in daily work. Venus also brings a lighter, more enjoyable energy, so there may be a celebration, a small event, or even a romantic connection at work. And then, on April 27th, Uranus enters that same sixth house, launching a completely new 7-year cycle in the areas of work, health, routine, and lifestyle. At the same time, your fourth house is holding a powerful stellium: Mars, Mercury, the Sun, the Moon, Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron. Saturn and Neptune will be felt especially strongly by those Capricorns who have an ascendant from 2 to 9 degrees, or birthdays between December 24th and December 31. Neptune may begin to dissolve the old, leaving behind a place, a pattern, or something tied to your past or family story. Saturn, on the other hand, is asking you to build something new: a new home, a new foundation, a new sense of stability. This can be literal, like buying property or building a house, or internal, like redefining what home means to you. Chiron adds a healing dimension to all of this. It can bring healing through your living space, through family, or through creating a new environment that truly supports you. For some, it may be as simple and powerful as moving and finally feeling at peace. For others, it may involve working from home or helping others from your own space, especially in roles like therapy, coaching, or consulting. Chiron can also bring a theme of duality, such as living between 2 cities or even 2 countries. So yes, April is a very important month for you. On one hand, a new 7-year cycle is beginning in your work and lifestyle, and on the other, your home, family, and inner foundation are being deeply restructured. And all of this can realistically change the entire rhythm of your life. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next astrology forecast. Aquarius, in April, we don't have a single retrograde planet. Everything is moving forward, which means your plans and efforts can finally start gaining real momentum. This is a great month, not just for planning, but for taking action. If you've been wanting to start something, move toward a dream, make things official, launch, or change something, April is perfect for that. And the second major event is that on April 27th, Uranus changes signs. Uranus is also your ruling planet, the planet of change, freedom, and the unexpected. And it enters your fifth house for 7 years, until May 2033. This is a very important cycle because the fifth house rules love, romance, joy, children, hobbies, creativity, and everything that brings you pleasure. And here, a completely new chapter can begin. Some of you may suddenly fall in love. And with Uranus, this often happens fast, intensely, and in a very unconventional way, almost like love at first sight. The person may be completely outside your usual type, from another country, a different culture or religion, with an age gap, or even long distance. For others, this may play out through the theme of children, a sudden desire to become a parent, an unexpected pregnancy, or modern methods of conception, if that's relevant for you. And for some, it will unfold through creativity and hobbies. You may start doing something you never expected from yourself: dancing, theater, painting, astrology, esoteric studies, aviation, or something truly unusual. You might even open a children's club or begin sharing your talents with the world. This is one of those transits that can completely change your relationship with joy and pleasure. And one more important point. For almost the past 8 years, Uranus has been moving through your fourth house, your home, family, real estate, and roots. So for many Aquarians, those years were connected to moves, relocation, emigration, changes in family, buying or selling property, paperwork, and shifts in where and how you live. And on April 27th, that chapter comes to an end. Now let's go step by step. On April 2nd, there is a full moon in your ninth house. This is the house of foreign countries, travel, visas, documents, higher education, immigration, legal matters, and expanding your horizons. Around April 3rd through April 5, you may receive an important answer about a visa, documents, a legal situation, relocation, or education. For some, this may be connected to a university, diploma, certificate, publication, book, teaching, or speaking, including online or for an international audience. In general, the theme of foreign countries, expansion, and stepping outside your usual comfort zone is very strong for you in April. And this becomes even more obvious next, because on April 10th, Mars enters your third house. The third house is about movement, travel, transportation, communication, documents, contacts, learning, and relatives. From that moment on, April becomes very dynamic. There may be a lot of trips, meetings, calls, conversations, and business travel. Some of you may buy or sell a car, others will be constantly on the move, and some will simply feel like they're always on the go. This is also the house of thinking, so there may be a lot of mental activity, analysis, and information flow. Then, on April 16th, Mercury also enters your third house, amplifying the themes of communication, paperwork, negotiations, learning, and networking. This can bring documents, certifications, conversations with teachers, important meetings, new connections, or simply a very intense flow of information. Then, on April 17th, there is a new moon in your third house, and this marks a clear new beginning. This can be a new idea, news, a decision, paperwork, a new project, new equipment, a new phone, computer, or car, or new documents. For some of you, this may play out through siblings or relatives. They may have news that involves you. Overall, this is a very strong new moon for everything connected to communication, movement, learning, and connections. And what's important here is that in April, your third house is heavily activated. Not only Mars, Mercury, the Sun, and the Moon are there, but also Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron. So the entire month strongly emphasizes communication, learning, travel, your environment, thinking, and information. Saturn here helps you build something new skills, new ways of communicating, a new environment, a new network. You may begin studying something seriously, changing your communication style, learning a new profession, or mastering new tools. Neptune, on the other hand, may begin to dissolve old connections. Some people may drift away, certain relationships may fade, or there may be distance from relatives or your usual circle. And Chiron brings a very interesting theme: healing through communication, learning, and the people you meet. This can come through a person, a conversation, an environment, or even a new field that helps you heal internally. Chiron also often brings a sense of duality: two professions, two directions, working between languages, or living between two systems or environments. So your third house is very powerful in April, making the month social, busy, communicative, and full of movement. Then, on April 21st, the Sun enters your fourth house, and the focus shifts back to home, family, living situation, renovation, real estate, and parents. You may be looking for a place, taking care of your home, making purchases, resolving family matters, or simply spending more time in your personal space. Then, on April 25th, Venus enters your fifth house, and this is a very pleasant placement. Venus here brings love, joy, romance, dates, gifts, restaurants, theater, creativity, and pleasure. And when, just 2 days later, on April 27th, Uranus enters that same fifth house, this is where a truly new and exciting chapter begins in love, creativity, children, and joy. Life can genuinely surprise you here in a very positive way. Now, a few key points. Saturn and Neptune will be felt most strongly by those of you with an ascendant from 2 to 9 degrees Aquarius, or early Aquarians, especially those born in January. And you still have Pluto in your first house, in your sign. This is a deep inner and outer transformation. It will be felt most strongly by those with an ascendant around 5 degrees Aquarius, or a birthday around January 25. And this is not about small changes. This is about a profound restructuring. You are changing, your sense of self is changing, your views, your reactions, your life path. For some, this will come through external events, and for others, through an inner realization that you are becoming a completely different person. So overall, your April is very alive. A lot of communication, movement, news, documents, and travel, and at the same time, the beginning of a completely new 7-year cycle in love, creativity, children, and pleasure. A very Aquarian kind of month. Dynamic, mobile, and with the feeling that life is opening up in a completely new way. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next astrology forecast. Pisces, you have a very powerful April ahead of you. This really is a month of growth. All the planets are moving forward. Nothing is slowing things down. Everything is developing, and everything can be moved ahead. So if you have a dream, and Pisces absolutely should have one, then in April you need to take a step toward it. And the second very important event is that Uranus is changing signs. Uranus is the planet of freedom, surprises, and unexpected change, and on April 27th, it enters your fourth house for 7 years, until May 2033. And the fourth house is about your home, family, parents, living situation, real estate, and that inner sense of where I live and who I live with. So for many Pisces, the theme of home and family is going to change very strongly over the next 7 years. For some of you, this will mean a move, and not just one. For others, it may look like living between two places, renting, changing homes often, dorm life, temporary housing, work that keeps you on the road, business trips, touring, or simply living out of a suitcase. For some, this will show up through family changes, children moving out, someone getting married, someone finding out they're pregnant, and the family structure itself changing. And for some of you, this could be a very unconventional family story. A relationship with someone from another country, someone from a different culture, background, or religion, or with a significant age difference, something that becomes a completely new life experience for you. And one more important thing, Uranus often brings themes of immigration, flights, relocation, and the feeling that you are not home very often anymore. There may be work connected to travel, flights, hotel life, rotational work schedules, or touring. So your fourth house is not just about an apartment. It is really about the entire structure of your personal foundation. And when Uranus crosses the threshold into that part of the chart, which is exactly what happens now on April 27th, it is usually felt especially strongly. Some of you may feel this already at the end of April, while for others it may unfold over the next couple of months. But most Pisces will definitely notice the shift. Now let's go step by step through April itself. On April 2nd, there is a full moon in your 8th house, and that is the house of finances, other people's money, loans, taxes, insurance payouts, alimony, help, support, and shared resources. And the money theme is one of the biggest ones for you this month. And this is not only about your salary, it is specifically about money that comes through other people or through systems. a bank, the government, a partner, clients, or an organization. So around April 1st through April 5, there may be important financial news: a loan, refinancing, paperwork, taxes, support, a scholarship, government assistance, insurance money, alimony, a payout, financial help, a collaboration, or a business partnership. For some of you, this may be news about your husband's or wife's income. For others, it may be a one-time payment. And for some, it may be support that arrives exactly when you need it. And then the money theme only gets stronger, because on April 10th, Mars enters your second house, which is your personal income, salary, source of earnings, and what you live on each month. And this is where movement begins. This can be a new job, a new activity, a new source of income, a shift into a different field, launching your own business, investments, purchases, expenses, or financial decisions. Mars is action, which means money starts moving through your choices and your initiative. And the second house is not only about money, it is also about your body, nutrition, physical energy, and health as a resource. So for some of you, this may show up through exercise, the gym, changing your diet, taking care of your body, quitting something unhealthy, or creating a new routine. In other words, you may begin to relate differently, not only to money, but also to yourself. Then, on April 16th, Mercury also enters your second house, and that brings in news, negotiations, ideas, calls, clients, and thoughts about how to earn more. This can be a conversation about money, raising your prices, discussing a new job, or new financial ideas. And then, on April 17th, there is a new moon in your second house, and this is a very strong launch point. A new source of income can genuinely open here. A new job, a new client, a new project, a new position, or a new earning structure. For some of you, your self-worth may also rise, and that matters too, because the second house is also about your value, how you see yourself, and how much you believe your work is worth. Sometimes new money comes in precisely when a person begins to value themselves differently. And just look at how serious this is. In April, your second house is hosting Mars, Mercury, the Sun, and the Moon. And in addition to that, Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron are already there. That means you literally have 7 celestial bodies in your sector of money, income, value, and resources. This is rare, and it very clearly shows that April is a financial month for Pisces. Neptune may dissolve an old source of income if it no longer truly belongs to you. Saturn, at the same time, helps you build a new foundation, a new earning system, a new way of making money, a new financial structure, a new source of stability. And Chiron adds a very interesting layer: 2 income streams, 2 forms of work, or the combination of 2 things that do not usually go together. This can look like a job plus a side hustle, a business partnership, living off 2 sources of income, money through a partner, or work as a translator, guide, therapist, healer, or consultant. In general, Chiron here can play out very beautifully through helping professions. So yes, in April, you may genuinely feel that you are moving into a completely different financial reality. Then, on April 21st, the Sun enters your third house, and after that, themes of communication, trips, conversations, meetings, documents, transportation, and negotiations become more active. There may be more movement, more talking, a trip, paperwork, or important new contacts. Then, on April 25th, Venus enters your fourth house, and that is already a very pleasant sign for home and family matters. Venus brings harmony, good news, comfort, beauty, gatherings, and pleasant events at home. You may celebrate something at home, receive good news related to real estate, renting, buying, selling, or moving, or simply begin creating a more beautiful and comfortable space around you. And what makes this especially interesting is that just 2 days later, on April 27th, Uranus enters the same fourth house. So for many Pisces, the period around April 25 to 27 may become the beginning of very important changes in home or family matters. And there is one more very positive thing. Jupiter is still in your fifth house, the house of love, joy, children, pleasure, hobbies, and inspiration. and it will remain there until the end of June. And that means this. Right now, it is very important to do what genuinely brings you joy. Everything that gives you real living happiness should not be postponed. Dancing, painting, travel, music, poetry, museums, creativity, dates, children, hobbies. None of that is just for fun right now. It is actually part of your path toward expanding your life. So your April is extremely powerful. On one hand, there is a major financial shift, and on the other hand, the beginning of a completely new 7-year cycle connected to your home, family, and place of residence. And honestly, this is one of those months when it is especially important for Pisces not to hide, but to start moving. Because the truth is, April is bringing you a lot of opportunities. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next astrology forecast.